so that's why we're starting a little later tonight. We do have a quorum, so I will start with reading the meeting guidelines. All right, good evening. My name is Barbara Stronzer, and I'm first vice chair of Bronx Community Board 7. I will put the agenda up later. On September 2nd, 2021, Governor Kathy Hochul signed into law. I'll read it from here. Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, which authorizes the community board to run this meeting remotely, and minutes will be taken for record keeping. The minutes will appear on our website within days and can be requested from Bronx Community Board 7 staff at any time. If you are calling into the meeting on conference, controls will be as follows. To hear all available commands, enter ** on your phone, *6 to mute or unmute yourself, *9 to virtually raise your hand. We will run the meeting as follows. Bronx Community Board 7 has the right to remove and/or ask a member of the public to leave a meeting or block participation of anyone who engages in inappropriate conduct, including but not limited to obscene or offensive images or language, personal attacks, threats, or any other behavior that reasonably impedes the orderly administration of the meeting. Repeated offenses will be reviewed by the board's executive committee or any other assigned committee for a ban. The amount of time to be determined by that committee of the participant in the event of repeated disruptive behavior. If in-person outbursts or attacks continue, this will be considered disturbing the peace and the authorities shall be summoned. Everyone besides the speaker or the presenter will stay muted throughout the meeting. After each presentation is over, I will inquire if committee members have questions. Committee members will signify that they have a question by pressing the raised hand button on your screen or requesting to speak through the chat or when the chair opens the floor. Only those recognized by the chair of the committee will be allowed to speak during the allotted time. We will stay on topic with the agenda items. Any other items will be acknowledged by the chair, a new business, or addressed at the next meeting, granted there is time and the committee agrees on the topic. Following the questions, discussion, and public comment portion, the committee will begin their discussion after each presentation or agenda item and will conclude with the decision to vote on a recommendation. When the agenda is finished, the meeting will be adjourned. If there are any questions relating to meeting software or to our process, please use the chat function or raise hand function now or contact the district manager. Okay. All right, we'll move on to attendance. I believe we have our secretary on. Yaira.
Sorry, Barbara.
We're ready for attendance. We can't hear you. You're still muted.
Who are you calling?
Yahaira? I don't know what happened to Yahaira.
I think sometimes she has problems. Oh.
Okay, now she's unmuted. Go ahead, Yahaira, with the attendance, please.
Okay, Barbara Stronzer,
Barbara Stronzer is here.
Eric Asensio.
Eric
Betty Arce.
Asensio present.
Thank you, Eric. Betty Arce,
Betty Arce present.
Jahaira Arias present. Michelle Avila,
Not here.
Andrew Leosa,
Andrew Leosa present.
Emmanuel Martinez is on leave. Edgar Ramos,
Ramos present.
thank you. Leuris Acosta, Chad Royer, Victor Saldaña,
Victor Saldaña present.
attendance. Okay, I have 7 in attendance, Barbara.
Okay, thank you so much. I believe we have a quorum. All right, we will review the
You
minutes.
can call Helene Wilson.
This is
I'm
the
here.
executive meeting.
This is-
Okay. Okay. Okay.
All right, next item, review of last month's minutes. Okay, let me see if I can pull them up. Okay, well, I'll scroll through them slowly. We had a presentation by the New York Botanical Gardens, as you can recall. And we had a motion to go along with the presentation. We had our committee reports. Okay, and then we had a motion on the table. Regarding the servicemen who had died in the line of duty in Iraq. And it was sent to committee. Right. Let's see. And the meeting ended at 9:17. Do we have any corrections or a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
Uncheck the box where it says Emmanuel and his name is misspelled as well.
Oh, okay. All right, so that has to be corrected, Yahira, when you get a chance. All right, anything else? Do we have a motion to accept the minutes with the one correction?
Just one more.
Okay, go ahead.
Says motion on the table is for a support letter from the board, CB7's drafted in support of an application of a street code.
Street
renaming.
renaming, I believe,
I
yes.
never heard it referred to as a street code, so I don't know
Okay.
what that.
Oh,
I
I
could be
see what you
wrong.
mean. All right, so maybe we can change code to renaming, so we'll have 2 changes to be made. Anything else? All right, motion to approve with the 2 corrections.
Barbara, Chad, I think Hiram noted, Chad, okay, she noted in the chat.
Okay.
Chad's name, the spell, okay.
Okay,
So I move to accept the minutes with the corrections.
all right, is there a second?
Second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Okay. The minutes. Thank you.
Barbara, just for clarification, should we give an opportunity for anyone who's opposed or needs to be or needs to be abstained?
In other words, you're asking for a roll call vote.
No, not a roll call vote, just those that approve, and then if anybody disapproves. You know what I'm saying?
That's roll call.
That would be a roll call. That's the only way we would find out. We can't tell by people's voices.
Okay.
All right, so do you want to do a roll call then, Yaira, please?
Why do we need to do this? Why? Why are we doing a roll call?
So that if anybody wants to abstain or vote in the negative, it's noted.
I mean, voting in the negative to approve the minutes?
Well, yeah, sometimes there's something in it that someone would not be in favor of or whatever, and wants.
Well, no, just to clarify, I like I said, normally I remember there used to be, if somebody, if you go for those, you know, those in agreement, and then those not in agreement, and then whoever disagreed, if they wanted to be noted, then they would be noted. Or it's just agreed and that's it.
At that point, you need to do roll call.
Yeah, it's a roll
Yeah,
call.
you have to do a roll call
They
for
have
that.
to be noted on the record.
Right, definitely. All right, Yaira? Can you do a roll call for the minutes?
Okay, acceptance of the minutes. Barbara Stronzer,
Barbara Stronzer votes yes.
Eric Asensio, Betty Arce,
Betty Arce votes yes.
Jahira Arias votes yes with the corrections. Michelle Avila,
Not here.
Andrew Leosa,
Andrew Leos approves the minutes.
thank you. Emmanuel Martinez is on leave. Edgar Ramos,
Edgar Ramos approves the minutes with corrections.
Leoris Acosta, Chad Royer,
Not here.
okay, Victor Saldaña.
Rachel Saldana approves the minutes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
You're
All right, we will move on to the district manager's update.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be very brief. I'll start by, and I'm sure the chair will reiterate some of the things I'm already gonna mention. We received notice today that the governor has extended the open meeting law to hold virtual meetings for the next 30 days, starting today. So the news flash is we will not be meeting in person next Tuesday. We will continue on Zoom for the remainder of the community board year, which concludes this Tuesday, June 21st. Of course, we will update the board as things change, especially this coming September. So stay tuned. But again, you can share your concerns with the chair. I wanted to share, and you will get this via email and a normal blast, but June 21st, the same day of our general board meeting at 3 p.m., the Bronx Borough President will be hosting a cannabis forum. And I know that this has been a topic of much discussion, especially since we have a medical marijuana facility in the district. And, it'll just be conversations around legalization of cannabis. You will be getting that in your box. But I just wanted to make sure I flagged it for you since we send many announcements. Of course, our resource fair is coming June 25th. So you will be getting an email from me directly to members asking for support and participation, i.e. volunteers. So we will send out a Google form that you would fill out if you're interested. Setup time will be at 9:30 a.m. And yes, I know that's pretty early, but we need to make sure that the park is cleared and accessible to us. The weeds are clean, which we're going to take care of, and all that other stuff. But, we start setting up around that time. And we hope that, folks will join us. Breakdown time, we're going to start breaking down around 2:30. The event actually ends at 3. So anything you feel you want to do, whether that's to table, help us organize, we're going to divide the event into sections. So depending on how many board members we get to help, Barbara, maybe you can help me with this, just following up with folks to see who can actually join to help us that day. We like to have as many board members there as possible to kind of, get to know the public, obviously, right? But also kind of cover a section. So that's kind of why we're going to send the Google form. We want as much participation as possible. Of course, there's the capital and expense request. Most committees, if not all, have discussed this at a committee level. I will reiterate that while we want committees to focus on their respective, I guess subjects, which is like, I'm going to use Betty as an example again. Sanitation and Department of Environmental Protection, you're not limited to those discussions. We do understand that most folks have other interests, and it may not necessarily be a full interest of what your committee's on. You may want to give a recommendation on education. That is totally fine. It's encouraged, actually. So you want engagement, and you can always share that when the exec meets and the general. But we want to make sure that the conversations get expedited, because then we get crunched in the for September and October for submissions. So I do want to stress that. And you will get an email with more of a push on that. And then lastly, as you know, the summer is sometimes very intense, and especially around CB7 for the last few years, noise complaints have been at their peak. with 301 complaints. Out of all 12 boards, we are the highest. That's what I don't want to say the highest. Let me take that back. Most of the complaints we receive are around noise complaints here in Board 7. So I want to encourage everyone to use 311, not just reach out to us, call 311, get that ticket number. It's important for us to have those things documented in the future. If we request funding from an elected official, we can use this data to back it up. So this is why we always push for those tickets to be opened. And of course, we'll follow up with the respective agency and contact the local elected if we need more reinforcement. But if you have hydrant issues, hydrants are not being closed, noise complaints, illegal barbecuing, those are typically what we get in. Many issues in our parks. We want to make sure that our families are having access to the parks in the best way possible. So if you see that they're not being taken care of, or there's certain folks coming in and just being a nuisance and not and not allowing families to enjoy the park, please let us know. We're going to be obviously available. We're here to assist. I know these meetings will not be taking place, but the office will be fully operational. And I'm very hopeful that in September before September we'll be fully in person. But we do plan to do some remote tabling throughout the district during the summer. I know that the health committee is very interested in partnering up with Montefiore to do the health survey throughout the district. So that'll be a joint CB7 effort to go throughout the district and share information, of course, and take complaints as necessary. So you will see us out there. Granted, it's not a heat wave or a rainstorm or inclement weather. But yeah, that's pretty much my updates. I'm sure there's some things that I'm missing, but so many things are going on that.
Okay, we have a hand raised there. Will you take the question, Aisha?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, Betty, go ahead. We see your hand.
Right, real quick, the candidates forum is for what position? That you mentioned that the borough president.
Oh, no, it's not a candidate forum, a cannabis.
Cannabis.
Oh, cannabis, sorry, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, fine.
It's one of those things that, there's a misconception of many things, right? I think that when we think of cannabis, we think about just like marijuana, the smell, which we get tons of complaints of in the district. So I think it's an opportunity for clarity, misinformation, I'm sorry, to clear up misinformation. And now that we have a medical marijuana facility, those questions could be asked. There's concerns over flipping a medical marijuana facility into recreational use and what that means for an area that has potential substance abuse issues already, right? So all these things have come up over time. So I just want to make sure that folks are aware of this and attend. I know that Michelle is planning to put together some things in the fall for us. So stay tuned for those things. But I think this is the borough president is doing a good thing here by starting the conversation. And of course, elections are at the end of the month.
Right.
I know there's a lot of confusion around that because of the separation of Congress, Senate, Assembly. So on June 28th, you would have your New York State Assembly candidates will be running, judicial delegates, the ticket, like state committee, district leaders, and your governor. So those are the lines you'll be voting for. Now, if you don't see a candidate on it, it just means that person did not get challenged in the Democratic primary, so they will not appear on the ballot. So don't freak out if you don't see your candidate. That just means that they ran unopposed. And in August, yeah. So I know often people are like, "Oh, I didn't see this person." It just means they ran unopposed, and by default, they are the Democratic. And then in August, there are the Senate and congressional races. So you should go. Actually, I'll send that in my email. I'll ask the staff to send that an email as well. There's a website that tells you which are your new districts. And you'll be able to kind of figure out what your new Senate and congressional lines are. There are a lot of districts that kind of don't exist anymore. They just kind of been shuffled, so they don't look the same. They're where the way it looks like we're inheriting another Senate seat, so we'll have more than just 3 senators. But again, once we come back in September, I'll definitely update everyone post elections. But just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that the Democratic primaries are happening in June and August. So if you are a registered Democrat, make sure that you go to the right websites and educate yourself on the candidates. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to our office. We'll be more than happy to help you.
Before we move on, does anyone else on the committee have a question for Aisha? Okay, thank you very much. All right, we shall move on to, we have no motions from any committees tonight. So we'll move on to our new business, which is the statement of needs discussion. If you recall, and if you looked at last year's budget, I believe we had 3 pressing issues. Land use trends was one, and that incorporated the fact that we were getting too much supportive housing, and many people who were not residents of our particular district were moving into the district and getting offered these apartments.
Barbara, I just want to correct you on that one. We were getting subsidized housing at the same rate that we were getting market rent.
Oh, okay.
It's just the influx of obviously of residential units coming into CB7. That
Right.
was just to clarify. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And also the fact that many of the residents coming in were not people from the area to begin with. All right.
Unfortunately, they're not getting access to the subsidized housing that many of our residents could benefit from. Sure.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, the second issue was the schools. We're getting all these new residents, and certainly not too many schools are being built in District 7. And the third issue was insufficient municipal service. And that's how we listed our most 3 pressing issues. Does anybody want to add to that or discuss it, or should we move to other issues for next year's budget? Or you'd like to think about it, or what? Anybody? No comment?
Well,
Go ahead, Betty.
I'd like to give it some more thought. We had a discussion in the committee on the specifics of the related to environmental and sanitation, but at the same time, I think there's a need for us to, look at the overall issues. And I think, Barbara, in our Parks Committee meeting, did we reiterate those 3? Did we come back to those 3 and kept them as 3, and at least in our committee? I don't remember.
I believe I mentioned it, and then someone suggested transportation was a problem with all the new people coming into the area.
Yeah, so that's part of municipal, that's part of the insufficient municipal services.
Services,
Municipal
right.
means transportation, education, there's so many things that cluster in municipal services,
Right.
and it all boils down to the influx in the population.
Right, exactly, and certainly that's also the lack of street cleaning, whatever, and so maybe that's something we need to keep in and just reiterate exactly what the problems are with the insufficient municipal services. But I believe we have some time for that, late August, September, whatever, to get that together. So any other comments?
Barbara,
Go
I'm gonna
ahead.
add that the staff is also putting together like, how do I put this? Like a tracker of the issues that come in. So when you guys come back in September, we can make a report of things that should be highlighted if they haven't been already.
Oh, that would be great, Aisha, because, most of us have no idea what type of calls you're getting or whatever.
But we usually get the usual, right? Like the 3 that I mentioned, those are like, the noise, it's the usual stuff, and folks seeking resources, right? To housing, food insecurity, things I've mentioned in the past. But
Okay.
I just want to keep like a better track post-COVID to see if there are any updates that we can add. either way, we're giving a report.
Oh, okay, very good. Any other comments anybody wants to make? Who's on the committee? All right, so most of this will be our discussion for the early fall, I'm sure. Before we move on to committee reports, as interim chair, I would like to thank everybody for your help and cooperation over the past few months. I know being on Zoom is not the easiest, and also being without our elected chairperson isn't easy, but everybody was cooperative and did what they had to do as far as committee meetings and attending the exec and the general meeting. So I thank you for your suggestions, whatever. The only thing I want to announce is that we received one resignation from the board. Untwain Fife resigned. All right, and that was within the last month. Okay, we will move on now to committee reports. Let's start with budget, personnel, and ethics. Do you have anything for us, Sandra?
Hello?
Hello, go ahead.
We didn't meet, but just a reminder, if people have not, they should take the anti-sexual harassment training.
Okay, I have a question on that. I had trouble getting into the website. And then I finally got in and I took the training, but I never got anything back from them saying that I had taken the training.
Make sure that you email Tom.
Okay, I will.
I'm sorry, I was eating. Make sure you email Tom, because unfortunately, in the past, I would normally have access. This year, I do not.
Okay,
So that
All right.
I won't be much help, but if you email him directly, it's better.
I shall. Okay. Any other questions about the sexual harassment training? Anything else, Andrew, you want to add?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Barbara? just to put
Yes.
it- That we agreed that we were just gonna, for the committees, there were just gonna be new things, and that at the general board is they would have present their full report.
All right, so did we agree that they couldn't speak at all unless they had a motion, or they could just give us a minute?
No, just to give us new information and reminders, and then at the general board, they can give.
Okay, they'll go through their report. All right, sounds good. Our chair for education, youth and libraries isn't here. Is there anybody else from that committee that would like to say something?
He's having a resource fair, I'm sorry, it's not a resource fair. He's having like I'm sorry, it escapes me the name, but it's like some sort of read along event over at Poe Park with Link NYC.
Okay,
Oh no, Link Literacy? No, Literacy
Literacy.
NYC. I'm sorry. Literacy NYC. And they'll be giving out books, some school supplies, reading to kids, something small. It's just gonna be at Poe Park. So I'm sure you'll get an email from Leodes or from us on his behalf soon.
okay, thank
But it's
you.
really, it's Link NYC's event. The committee's just joining.
Thank you. We'll move on to environment and sanitation. Betty, do you have anything you'd like to tell us about?
Just that there'll be a cleanup at on Decatur 195th this Friday. So that's NYPD and some other organizations. So anyone who's interested in participating can just show up. I'm sure that it'll be a good event. That's about it. Everything else is, most of it already took place. Some of the updates that were given at the meeting by agency reps. So those will just be information. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Health and Human Services, Michelle is not here. Is there anybody from that committee that would like to tell us? I guess not. Okay,
No, I did share the health
yes.
survey that she'll be working over the summer.
Okay.
Montefiore to do the health survey across the district.
Is this the health service survey, Aisha, that was sent out?
Yep, that's the one.
Okay, okay, thank you. Housing, land use, and economic development, Eric?
Just to report that the mayor's housing plan came out today. I it was sent over to Jade so she could send it out to everybody. I think all the committees will benefit from looking at what the mayor is proposing in terms of housing.
Okay, thank you. All right, Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, we had Captain Sanchez from the PEP Squad at our meeting. Needless to say, if you live near a park, you know the summer is always a difficult time, and we let him know, some of our needs and some of the issues we've had in the past. All right, we'll move on to public safety, quality of life. Victor?
Hi, good evening, everyone. We had a short meeting this month, as there were other meetings happening at the same time. We did not have any other city agencies besides the Bronx district, the Bronx DA's office. People from the public were concerned about the rise in crime, especially about a school shooting happening in front of PS 8. Currently,
Okay. All right, thank you, Victor. We'll move on to traffic. We lost you, Victor. You haven't finished. Can you hear me?
I'm not sure if this is the best
We lost you.
form, but
after
we are
PS.
drafting some sort of, we're using the template to see if we can get a letter for NYPD.
Okay, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself, Victor? I guess he's having techno.
I'm so sorry. Did I not give the update? So
We
I'm
got
sorry.
as far as PSA, the shooting at PSA. So if you wanted to add anything else.
Yes. So yes, the community is very concerned about crime within our schools. So they have requested if Community Board 7 can put forward a letter of support of adding video cameras next to schools within our district. So our team is currently working on drafting that up, and hopefully we can submit it and go to the right process. I'm not sure if we can have a special meeting in July or August just to vote on it and open up to the public as well. But this is a request that's coming from the community due to the rise in crime.
Okay, that would be excellent. Thank you.
So the issue with that, just for clarification, according to the bylaws, chairs are not chairs in July, right? They need to be reappointed in September. So that's the bylaws are very clear. They say that the term expires in June. Remember, that's why the chair appoints interim chairs or reappoints, right? This is why you take a vote in September. You may want to, I'm sharing this because that's language that may want to be changed in the bylaws in the future.
All
You
right,
get what
we'll
I'm
look
saying?
at it, I'm sure. Yes, I know what you're saying, that the reappointment comes
Yeah,
for
so
committee
that's something
chairs.
to revisit.
beginning of
You
the
can
year.
always, it's a play with months, right? So you can always
Right.
revisit and just say that the term expires, upon changes made by the chair in September. It's something as simple as that. But I'm sharing because, it's Victor, I can always send or how do I put this, like a request on how to go about making these requests on behalf of the board because of concerns. You don't need a motion for that. So if you wanted to draft something from the committee that I can push for PD or the council person, I can do that independently, right? And then when you guys meet in September, you can provide a full letter of support, if that makes sense.
Sounds good. Thank you, Isha. So we'll reach out to work that out.
Okay.
Yeah, good. All right, thank you, Victor. We'll move on to traffic and transportation with Edgar.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Basically, it's been kind of good to see the DOT has kind of started some of the work and redesign. Their line painting out within the Bronx. They started to do some of the changes for Mashula Parkway, and they're moving forward. All that we agree upon and we vote on, a lot of times just stay and never get done. But it looks like they're starting to get some of the stuff moving. hopefully that means that, you know, the streets will be a little safer and things will go a little better for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Veterans Affairs, anybody from that committee here? Okay. Ad hoc bylaws? Any report? Okay, all I can say, I'm on that committee that we are working, and it will run into the fall, I'm sure. All right, our next meeting is, as an executive committee, is for September 15th. Hopefully it'll be in an in-person location. I'm sure our district manager will be finding us great sites to have our meetings.
Yankee Stadium.
Would anybody like to bring up any items that you would like on the agenda for the fall? I know the budget is going to be a big item because it's that time of the year that we really have to get the committees together to make suggestions, or we can even make suggestions for other committees. If you have issues over the summer that come up, please make a list so that come in the fall, we'll have some items that we will add to the budget.
Absolutely.
All right, Eric, I see your hand, and Victor's hand is up too. Before we move there, I see someone with the numbers 346793. I'm just saying that if you are not a community board member, according to our bylaws, you cannot speak at this meeting, but you can write whatever you need to ask in the chat. So please do so. All right, Eric, if you unmute yourself, we'll take your question. And then Victor. Go ahead, Eric.
At one point, we had spoken on this committee about surveying the board members about which committees they would like to be on, or if they want to switch committees. Is that something that is happening?
Yeah, everyone was supposed to
in
email
September?
Barbara. Did anyone email Barbara with potential?
Nobody emailed me when we said we were gonna do a survey, so I assume people didn't have any concerns. So
Got
if
it.
we want to get it together again, I mean, I'm here, I'll take your suggestions. And not that everybody's going to get the committee that they want as a first choice because of the numbers that we have, but certainly it would be considered.
No, I just thought that there was gonna be like an actual document sent around for us to comment on. That was, I think that
Yeah,
was
no, you're
what
right. You're right,
thought.
Eric. There was supposed to be, and I think like 2-3 months ago, Barbara had asked that people send suggestive questions on how
Suggestions
to,
that they wanted on the survey, and I
outside of
received
committees,
nothing.
yeah.
I
like
would have put it
interest.
Got
together,
it.
yeah, but I got nothing, so we'll see. All right, Victor, your hand is up, go ahead.
Thank you, Barbara. I just want to bring up again the request or any information about the consolidation of committees, specifically on city services. As we get closer to going on site, I feel that there will be committee members that would not be able to make to the meetings. So there might be too many meetings. And if there's any timeline or any decision or any vote on consolidating some of the committees.
At this point, we did not get to that area on the bylaws. It's, you know, the committee has been working, but it takes a while. It's not something that we can do overnight. And, you know, how does many of our committee chairs feel about that? I mean, personally, I feel we have so many issues. And we have a lot of people on our community board. And I realize we're going to have problems once we go back to in-person, because we all got very happy with not having to leave our apartments and our homes to come to a meeting. My feeling is with what we have with city services and the lack of them, the more pressure we can put on our local agencies, the better off we'd be. Does anybody else have a comment to make on that?
The bylaws committee is consolidating. That is the goal.
Excuse me, what, how do you know that? We haven't even discussed it.
It was in the first discussions in the first meeting.
Yeah, but we need to
Barbara,
look at
Barbara,
it.
but that is the sentiment that has been expressed. Victor, you can always make a recommendation to amend the bylaws. All you need to do if we're online is create a Google document requesting 2/3 of the board to support your changes, and then bring the motion on Tuesday over the floor if you wanted to make a change.
You could do that, Victor, if you wanted to.
So Victor, you can text me and I can walk you through the process from here to Tuesday. If you want to put it together, that's your discretion. Granted, you can garner the votes.
Okay, I have more than a few questions about how the consolidation works, but that I will bring up at the bylaws committee and not waste everybody's time tonight.
Right, I just wanted to chime in, Barbara, since I'm on that ad hoc committee, we
Right.
talked about it, we're trying to figure out how it would look, and there was a lot to deal with on that one.
Exactly.
I'm kind of on the fence about consolidating, but at the same time, I understand that we want to be able to move things along, and maybe consolidation on some level helps to increase interest and participation. At the same time, I don't want to lose focus on certain things. I don't want things to get lost in the sauce, so to speak. So I'm still not sure. I'd like to see, and Victor, as you put together the piece, maybe you have some ideas on how it would work, because I think you're going to get a lot of questions if you're going to present this as an amendment. You're going to get a lot of questions.
Yeah. See, my question is, and I think, well, not my question, but I think one option would be that a committee, like I know Victor, and I believe it was your committee, Betty, that from time to time met together. I think that's a great idea. The issues you're discussing pertain to both committees. But I think it's still good to keep the committees whole, because there are often other issues that don't pertain to another committee. And I mean, even if you don't have a meeting each month, there's nothing right now in the bylaws that says you must meet every month. If you don't have anything for your agenda, you can, skip a month. But I think with 39 people on a board and taking 3, 4, 5 committees and combining them into a municipal service committee, I just question that whole thing, especially the condition of our borough and our district after COVID. But that's my opinion. Would anybody else like to add to that discussion?
Yeah, just to remind those that were a part of the meeting,
Which meeting are you referring to?
the bylaws meeting.
Okay, yes.
We did touch on it last week again, and we put a question mark because we were gonna try to have another discussion about it, because we
Right.
did talk about it at the very beginning when we first started going through the bylaws. That was
Right.
one of the first topics that we had, and we
Uh-huh.
decided to move on. And then last week we touched on it a little bit and put a question mark next to it because of everybody's questions.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Good point. All right, anything else that anybody would like to bring up? Is there anything in the chat that we need to answer?
I'd like to acknowledge the borough safety director, the person that had his hand up or her hand up, I don't know, is the DOE borough safety director. That's someone I think we would want to have speak at a future meeting, perhaps maybe at our general board meeting next week. I don't know.
I don't think they're the borough director. They're saying that they can communicate.
Oh,
with
I'm
the
sorry.
community.
You're right.
Yeah, so we would invite that person to the education committee, right? Or public
Uh,
safety, I guess is one of those things.
Public
Yeah, I
safety, yeah.
Yeah, could you write your full name? Catogio 346-793?
I'm looking, I communicate with DOE, but the area to see if schools are installing cameras installed. Okay,
So he's from the NYPD, okay, Suzanne Catogio, okay. Nice to meet you, Suzanne.
thank you for joining us. And if you can put the information in the chat, that would be.
You know, that's something that sort of like touches to, here's a good example. She's the commanding officer for the school safety division, which touches on education as well as public safety kind of, you know what I'm saying? Here's like something that is that kind of like covers both two areas of
Right,
interest.
so, yeah, that to me would be an excellent meeting to get the two committees together. Go ahead, Eddie, you had a question?
I think before we even get that far as to getting them on a meeting, I think in reference to the letter that was suggested by public safety, it'd be important for them to kind of chime in what they know or what they may know of any cameras maybe being planned to be put in, or if anything is in the works that we can help by maybe writing a letter to our city officials, right? Because city council is the ones who usually provide the money for the security cameras.
Right.
And, you know, just so we can get it done before September. For the meetings, even we start talking about meetings, they're willing to provide assistance. I think we should, you know, that's a value that we could definitely add so we can get the proper information and get the correct letter out. Just a thought.
Yeah, I also want to share that, remember, there's borough consultations that happen every year. And that's when the district managers and the chairs get together. It's mostly the district managers that create an itinerary with like general issues that they bring up. And it's kind of like your capital and expense, but our version borough-wide. So that is something that I'd be happy to bring. And I'm sure that my colleagues at the other 11 boards share the same sentiment that school districts, especially in areas with higher crimes, you know, higher crime areas, merit capital investments in cameras. Yes, the city council could provide that, but so can the state as well, considering the massive expense. So I just wanted to share that too.
Could we possibly pass a motion tonight to send a letter and then get it approved next week? So the letter would get out and the motion would come from the executive committee?
What are you asking for specifically in this?
Cameras for our local schools, outdoor cameras, after the incident we had at PSA, the shooting incident. So that would be a letter that we would send to the council people who are in our district
So
requesting
you're
that.
requesting that all schools within Community Board 7
7.
I
Install.
thought we agreed. I thought we agreed to do that already.
I don't think it was a motion.
Aisha said that as a district manager from the community board, she could make that request or suggest that request from the city agencies, if I'm not mistaken.
I think what Barbara's saying is just adding another layer of support.
In other words, we'd also send a letter in addition to her request before we took a break for the summer.
Right.
What do you think would be more effective, Aisha? No, I mean, whatever you all want to do, if the sentiment of the board is that we request from, you know, DOE and just our electeds on how to best invest capital into pursuing this, that's a request that I can definitely put in, independent of the board as the district manager, of course, and advocate for it. But if you wanted to put something on the record where you have to, the thing is with a motion like this one, you have to be specific. So you're requesting that all New York City public schools within the confines of.
Not all New York City, the schools within our district.
So I said all New York City public schools within Bronx Community Board 7 to use our language, right? Within Bronx Community Board 7, be allocated funding to provide cameras. Now, you know, one thing that this board has set precedent for is that you get support letters from those institutions that want this, right? So in this case, it would be good if we can gather support letters from the principals that are in agreement with something like this.
Okay, so in other words, you feel that, well, we certainly wouldn't have enough time to do that.
So you can turn this letter as a letter of request to all principals in the school to support Community Board 7 in this request. So you can flip it in that way if that's something you wanted to do.
I don't agree.
Excuse me, Betty, I didn't hear you.
I think we should just send a letter of support. I understand that about the principals, but I think that's going to be principals are not going to be focused on this right now. I mean, they might be. They might be. I'm not going to say they're not.
No, I'm not
But-
saying, to do one or the other. What I'm saying is also sending the letter to the principals, asking them to support the initiative Board 7 is taking. That's what I'm saying. So it'd be in addition to, it's like that extra
Okay,
layer.
all right,
you
gotcha,
know?
all right, all right.
That
all right.
way you,
I
once
can
our
see
letter goes in, you put it on them, the onus to kind of also
that. All right,
advocate for it,
fine, okay, I mean, if that's the case, okay, that I can support that as well.
Victor, how do you feel about this since you brought up the issue? What do you feel we should do?
I think we should expedite the cameras in the school. So I'll reach offline to Isha to see how we can get NYPD and the council members to push forward for at least put it in their plans to allocate some funds. And then I agree, we do need that second tier of support from the community board. So if we can get a letter as well, those are the two steps I'm thinking I'm gonna take.
Okay, so you're not interested in getting a motion from the exec committee and getting an approval next week? You would rather,
No,
wait,
no, he's saying give it all.
give it all? All right, so then we would
Right.
need a motion right now.
Yeah. Andrew has a
Um,
question, Barbara.
Oh, okay, yes. Go ahead, Andrew. You're muted. Now you're on, no, now you're okay. Go ahead.
I've been kind of following this issue fairly closely, and the experts are actually saying putting almost exclusive effort into hardening a target like a school is not the only thing to do. I would like also for us to be concerned about the mental health counselors and availability of people like that, social workers that can, deal with the other side. It's not just about hardware, bulletproof vests, bulletproof windows, locked doors, security cameras. There's also the human element. And I think that it's easy to just focus on the hardware stuff and not the other stuff. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on this? Victor, do you want to present a motion for us to vote on tonight?
Yes, I would like to present the motion of Bronx Community Board 7 to support adding, support of adding cameras to public schools in Community Board 7 district.
Now, you'd like a letter of support to go to
Yes,
who?
I know,
To
but you
our
have to-
council people throughout the district?
Barbara, but you can't just, you have to say, you have to be specific in this motion. You're asking for funding to be
Outside and
allocated.
inside.
Funding to be allocated, so the motion has to be worded in a way with, you're asking for something. Right now, you're just asking for cameras, you're asking for funding to be allocated. to provide
Allocated
Cameras, yeah.
to provide
Well, I'm
cameras?
not a board member, so you can't,
Yes, right.
I'm not reciting, I'm
Okay,
suggesting.
so the motion would read, a letter of support be sent to the local council people to request funding be allocated for the purpose of installing cameras outside our district schools.
I would use the word security cameras. I mean,
Yes, security cameras, okay. All right, do we have a second on Victor's motion?
A second,
All right, Betty seconded. Okay, we going to, any discussion on it before we go to a vote?
no,
All right, Ira, if you wanted to call the roll, please.
Barbara Stronzer,
Barbara Stronzer votes yes.
Eric Asensio,
Eric Sanchez supports the motion.
Betty Arce,
Betty Arce supports the motion.
Jahira Arias supports the motion. Michelle Avila is absent. Andrew Leosa,
Drew also supports the motion.
Manuel Martinez is on leave. Edgar Ramos,
Edgar Ramos agrees with the motion.
Thank you. Leoris Acosta is absent. Chad Royer is absent. Victor Saldaña.
Victor Saldaña approves the motion.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. So that motion will be carried next Tuesday then to the general meeting.
Barbara, I just need the motion template ASAP so we can send it out.
Okay,
That way, folks, you know, and I'll share this publicly also for the chairs. I understand that sometimes, you know, life happens, but the quicker we get these motions, the less hectic it is to vote for them at the general board meeting, because at least folks get context early on.
right. Okay. All right, any other issues that anybody would like to bring up?
Yes.
I think Andrew has his hand up.
Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah. I have a motion, and I'm posting it in the chat. Requested our elected officials request additional funding to provide additional mental health services in public schools.
All right, do we have a second for Andrew's motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
Are we talking about, Andrew, like guidance count? I mean, do you have anything specific, more specific than just mental health services? That's kind of broad.
I believe that I'll leave it up to the experts to decide. I don't know if they're social workers, psychologists, crisis counselors. I don't know enough to know who should be there, but I think, you know, the general idea that we're not only supporting the hardware part of making our schools safer, but also the mental part.
Does anybody know the status of what already exists in our local schools? Do we have
Oh,
counselors? Do we have social workers?
Every school has a different ratio. I mean,
Right.
schools share counselors. I mean, last time I checked, sometimes counselors shared among 3 schools. There's no way of getting you all that information tomorrow. There's no way. DOE.
No,
So it's hard to put this motion together without context. It's very general unless you have specifics that I can put. I could gather it, but then what are you sharing with the board in terms of data for them to vote on Tuesday? I'm trying to figure this out, how it would work, because I need the motion template like tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's not just students, it's also the staff, you know, I mean.
Right.
It's a.
Yeah, I think the motion right now is very broad, but if Andrew
No, I
can.
think it's great. I think it's a great idea that we provide services, right? Folks are grieving
Right.
post-COVID, you know, during COVID, there's a lot that, you know, parents, teachers, kids are internalizing, right? Clearly. But I get information. I'm just not sure how quickly. DOE is not as responsive as I want it to be.
Right.
So I'm just trying to figure out, how do I help you help this motion pass, right? I don't.
Unless we move it to the education committee,
But then, you know, this is our last meeting, so.
our last meeting, I know. All right, any other comments on the motion that's on the floor? Did we get a second for that motion?
Somebody not muted.
I
Trying
think
to
that was
think.
Barbara. You can't control the
Sorry,
background,
I'm
Barbara.
sitting right next
I
to the
know.
window.
I
and-
know.
Oh, is that what
you
that was?
can't
Oh, no.
You
Cool.
can't control the background, unfortunately. So
I hear you, okay.
it's
I
okay,
wanna
Barbara.
just
You love
like-
salsa. It's okay. We know you love salsa, Barbara.
I'm trying to go back to the request that our elected officials request funding to provide additional mental health services in public schools.
We're losing you.
No, I'm just rereading, Andrew's.
Oh, okay.
That is, since I seconded it, I mean, I in, you know, in spirit, I believe in it. I just wanted to see it more concrete, or maybe this is just maybe we're floating it out there to remind elected officials that.
Well, Eric just put that this is a good budget request. I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
You can always, once your expense and capital requests go in, you can always extract them and put them on a letter. You know what I mean? Like put a
Right,
motion
right.
forward to push for them. That's something that I've said in every meeting, especially when you've had a motion in there, I'm sorry, a request in there for several years. In order to push your stuff, bring it back to committee.
So are we going to move with this, or should we then put this as part of our budget request and then follow it up with,
I don't know.
What's the
Barbara,
committee's
another thing.
feeling on that? All right, we have a motion on the floor. Did we get a second?
I think the idea that Andrew put forward is very admirable. And I think it should be at least put out there to, if not start the wheels rolling, at least have both the elected officials and those that make those decisions start thinking about it, because it is definitely something that is needed. I mean, the mayor did announce that he is increasing the mental health budget in the city, but do we know if that includes just the people in the street? Does it include the schools? You know, but I think I think the letter that Andrew has suggested would be good to get that, you know, because it's a big monster you got to move. You got to get Board of Ed moving. You got to get the city of New York moving. You got to get funding from the states, funding from the feds, wherever the money's going to come from. So, you know, somebody's got to be David and start this, you know, start the pebble so it can turn into a boulder by the bottom of the hill.
and wasn't there the budget, the city budget, weren't there cuts to the school budgets as well?
Yes. I don't know where the cuts are though. You're right.
But cuts can be administrative too. Most of the absorbance of DOE is administrative. So it could be that too.
We don't know.
Okay. Andrew, your request would be going to the council people in our district?
Yeah, I guess it's city, school, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's state funding for the school, so I don't know. I don't
All right.
really know.
Any other comments on Andrew's motion?
I just need to know where I'm saying this letter. You have to understand my side when I draft this letter. What is it that you guys? This is vague. What are you requesting? What is the motion template being put forth on Tuesday? This is not enough.
Andrew, you requested mental health services for the schools. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's last minute. I can't really clean it up better. I don't know correct lingo. Maybe somebody else can help out. But I did post something from the Department of Education website, and it's pretty powerful if you want to take a look at that.
Okay, where is it? I'm looking.
The one that says 1 in 5 children, is that the one, Andrew?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
That's like a background as to why we think we need additional funding.
So then we throw that in there as well. Probably 1 in 5. And given the current, what has happened in Uvalde, what's happened in Buffalo, those kinds of issues, and what's happened in our own district at PS8.
Yeah, but mental health services mean many things. This is what I'm getting at. Like, I can't just send this like to the council members, not send it to DOE or not send it to DOMH, right? Because you have to understand that these mental health professionals are coming certified from DOMH. So what I'm asking here is like, what are you actually requesting? Mental health services can involve a counselor, can involve a nurse. Like, what do you, because then I'm going to struggle trying to find you guys over the summer to write this letter. So
No, well, let me ask you a question, Aisha. If we state mental health resources, right, wouldn't it be for the Board of Ed to say what is the requirement in each school?
no, you can't ask for something and then expect
a therapist?
the institution to find it.
No, not for them to figure out how to do it, but what they need. You know what I'm saying? They may know they need that already. They just need someone to provide the money for it.
Right, so that's a budget request.
All right, so the suggestion from the district manager is that we use this as a budget request rather than a letter, since we can't be
You could
too
do both.
specific at
You
this
can
point.
do both because I like Andrew's idea. What I'm sharing
I
is
do
that
too.
you could take both. Once you put it on the budget and clean it up and actually have some time to think about it in September, the committee could now, whether that's you know, Victor and Leotis can take that on, right? As a committee to advocate for it. Is what I'm saying. You could do both, whether, you know, the chicken or the egg before the chicken, however you want to do it. But you have to give me more context, right? Because I can't tell an institution you need more of something, right? Like, what does that even mean? Like, there's so many aspects of mental health that a school may need versus, you know, like a K-8 versus an 8-12. What are we asking for? What is it that we've
Money.
observed? Money, yeah, but
Right, but we don't even know if
you
if that's already allocated funding in the schools
True,
for
true.
that, right?
So we're
Right.
gonna be very specific about the type of mental health service as
yeah,
opposed.
that's not, you know, people are gonna get a letter and say, what do they want? Like, you know, it's like saying, hey, get me a shirt. What kind of shirt? What size is your shirt? What color would
Okay.
you like the shirt? That's a horrible comparison, but you get the point is what I'm saying. Like, we have major institutions and you know, David, you know, now you kind of bring this up in the chat. We have major institutions like Montefiore and North Central. The health survey is happening now, right? These are two institutions that can be helpful in that process. We have an abundance of healthcare clinics in our district. We're probably, in comparison, I think, to Board 4, have one of the highest. So these are things that, what are we asking for? Internal services or connecting external services? Like, you sending a letter saying we need more of, what does that mean, right? When we send a letter to DOE and we say we need more schools, we're specific about middle schools all the time because we don't have, right? So I'm just saying, like, I'm gonna get the request afterwards, like, what do you guys mean by this? And I
Okay,
don't have an answer. So I'm trying to get the board to understand that when you bring this forth to the general board meeting, in theory, it's a great idea, but folks are going to ask.
Okay, Andrew, do you want to withdraw your motion until we get additional information?
Well, I mean, yeah, but I think technically it was seconded, so I guess technically we have to, well, yeah, I guess I can, yes, I officially withdraw the motion. Yep.
Okay,
Nice.
but
But
please
it's good. I hope
follow up
somebody
on
wrote
it.
it
It's
in the
support
minutes. I hope
in the
somebody wrote
budget.
it. Yeah, write it somewhere. It's in the minutes
Yes.
because it's good for Leotis and Victor to
Lourdes
both
is
send
on
it.
and
Yeah.
so is Victor, so maybe they can pencil it in someplace when they do their budget request.
And this
So
is a good topic for them too, you know, to bring in
I'm
someone
looking-
from DOE.
I'd like to, I'm right now on the DOE's School Mental Health Services website, and it has, you know, bubbles, links to things like children and youth, families, LGBTQ, New Yorkers, immigrants, care for serious mental health issues, counseling, substance use services, trauma support, help with anxiety, peer support, crisis support, grief support. So there's a variety of links on that website. I'll put it in the link in the chat, and whoever wants to follow up and read up on that, maybe that'll begin to get the ball rolling. Okay, I'm just gonna.
Thank you. All right, any other issues before we close?
I also think that services extend.
I can't hear
beyond-
you, Aisha.
Services extend beyond the kids. Families need help.
Right.
Yes,
Families
yes,
need
Look at
help.
that, yes.
Non-traditional families need help. I grew up with my grandmother who came here from another country. All that to say, we needed help, and
Yeah.
that's a growing demographic here. And the
Mhm.
help is not just, you know, it's also kids that have to assimilate, and it's a culture shock to come from a different country here, right? There's so many
Yes.
issues, you know, that come from mental health, and it's also extending that olive branch to parents and created a comfort around a stigma that exists, especially, you know, among Black and brown folks, you know, receiving mental services. So you can have an abundance, but we have to normalize receiving it. So
Mhm.
that is something that it is a broader discussion, to Edgar's point, and it's something that we need to address ASAP, to Andrew's point. But it's the stigma. The stigma is alive and well, the same way the stigma exists with IEPs.
Yes.
You know, like
yes,
there's a huge
definitely.
stigma where it's like, my kid is not stupid. This has nothing to do with your kid, you know, being stupid. This has everything with your kid receiving the services they need early on, so they're not set back in the future. So these
Right.
are all things that need a broader discussion, that it does lead to public safety, right? Because then kids are reactive later on, right? So this is a bigger conversation, and this is good that Leodis and Victor can partner up in, you know, come September, October, and maybe broaden the discussion on how the community boards, or even this community board, can advocate for funding specific to the actual need, right? Because saying mental health services is so broad. It starts at home, you know, and then it trickles into the school system, and we're not addressing the cultural diversity and the culture shock that most of these students that are entering the school system are receiving. So it's something to really digest here. It's not, we're folks that understand the school system. We were born and raised here, but the reality is the majority of the kids in our school system are not. So, you know, I work closely with the schools in our district, and I see the diversity, I see the need, right? And I see the culture shock. So, you know, I bet Betty, you and I recently went to a school to do a reading, you know, and you see it, you know.
Right. All right, any other comments? All right, do we have a motion to close the meeting?
Motion to close.
Anybody want to second that?
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, good night, everybody, and remember, we're on next Tuesday for the general meeting, and it will be on Zoom.
So Aisha, someone will get the details, right?
Yeah,
Right,
and
I'm
the
sure.
login is still the login for the general.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah,
Okay, fine.
it'll
All right.
that stuff still remain the same. We'll send on an updated calendar first thing in the, actually it's already scheduled. It'll go out first thing in the morning.
Okay,
Yeah, so you'll get that update ASAP.
Okay, good, thank you.
okay.
All right, good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right.
Boy.